the Everything But Politics podcast.
Welcome back to the Everything But Politics podcast. Today we're honored to be joined with Clay Blair at the legendary Boulevard Recording Studio in Los Angeles, California. Clay, thanks for having us.
Thank you, guys. This is awesome.
Absolutely.
It is awesome. Well, Clay, before we began, we were talking about us being from Indiana, you being from North Carolina. So how did a North Carolina kid find himself in this studio space?
Yeah, I worked in studios in North Carolina, and basically I was working with people here too at the same time. So through friends I'd made in North Carolina, I eventually started to come out here and for months at a time and do work. And so I just naturally wanted to be here, and I started doing that in 2008, and then by 2010 I moved here, and this didn't come till later.
Okay, well, so let's go back to that kid in North Carolina. How did you find yourself like loving music, loving making music, the studio aspect to it?
I grew up playing music, and I had bands, and I was obsessed with the Beatles.
Yeah.
And kind of like I taught myself how to record by re-recording Beatles songs.
That's cool.
And I had a Beatles band when we toured England when I was 17 and played the Cavern Club where the Beatles played. And all along I was recording, and then I started writing, and I wanted to record that. So it just naturally, I was always recording from ever since I can remember, somehow on tape or whatever I could find. And it kind of just took over for me, and I really wanted to be in the studio with people making records or mixing records too. And I just kept doing it and kind of worked my way up. I went to college in Tennessee at MTSU, and after a semester, I figured out that I could do more than the seniors in a studio.
Yeah.
And so I dropped out and started working in a studio back in North Carolina.
Wow. Did you ever study audio engineering and production?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But briefly, I've actually taught more than I've sat in on classes.
That's funny.
Yeah.
What was like your introduction into learning recording music?
Really trial and error, and the Beatles. I would just listen to a record and be like, how'd they get that? How do I get that sound? How do I tune the drums to sound like this?
Yeah.
Or, what kind of drums or microphones were they using? What kind of guitars? What kind of guitar strings? What kind of amps? Everything.
Yeah, the equipment, the gear.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have it when I was a kid, but I made do, and did my best to make it sound the way I wanted. And I think that's what really taught me to record. It was, not necessarily having everything I wanted and dreamed of at the time. I was still able to make quality recordings, even for a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
Well, now, Clay, this studio is pretty legendary. Been in Los Angeles since 1967. There's been some legendary songs recorded in this building. Want to name some of those songs that were recorded in here?
Yeah, so 6 of the 7 songs on Steely Dan's Asia, probably their best-known record, were cut in here, the basic tracks. So basic tracks means the backing band, the drums, the bass, the keys, probably the guitars. And that's pretty legendary to me because some of the world's best drummers recorded in this room on what is considered one of the best recordings ever of a band. Pink Floyd spent 3 months here working on The Wall. So, all those songs, Comfortably Numb and Another Brick in the Wall. Mother was done here from scratch with Jeff Porcaro on drums, another incredible drummer. You Make Me Feel Like Dancing was recorded the same day that they recorded the song Asia with Steve Gadd, who came in the morning and cut that, and then by the afternoon they were on to Steely Dan. They snuck it in. That's how it used to be.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Carly Simon, Hot Cakes, Mockingbird, Neil Diamond, You Won't Send Me Flowers with Barbara Streisand. Ringo Starr recorded a large part of his first record and his third record, I believe, Goodnight Vienna. So a lot of really classic songs there. And then later, when it was not Producer's Workshop, it's not always been called Boulevard. I renamed it when I opened it. But in the 90s, late 80s into the 90s into the early 2000s, it was called West Beach, and it was owned by Epitaph. So a lot of pop punk records were done here. Sublime's first record, Blink-182's very first album, it was called Cheshire Cat. It was before they had, what's the drummer? Jeez.
Travis.
It was before they had Travis Barker. Yeah.
Nice, Ev.
You can edit that, edit around that. But one of my most famous, my favorite recording from that era would be Fade Into You, Mazzy Star.
Oh yeah,
I love that.
great
So
song.
that whole record was done here.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I took it over a little later, and we have some songs on the Boulevard roster too. I mean, we won a Grammy in 2017 for Best Rock Album with a band called The War on Drugs for an album called A Deeper Understanding. And they did a lot of that album here and in other studios. But if you open up the sleeve of the LP with a vinyl record, there's pictures of this room all over it. It's really cool.
That's awesome.
And they've come back and done records also, but we've had St. Vincent, Slater-Kinney. I recorded Tom Jones here, the great Tom Jones.
Oh, yeah.
The Colts. We had Local Natives, which is a great LA band. There's some other great bands too in LA that are not as well known that I enjoy doing also. Like it's kind of like we kind of get the label calls that kind of pay the bills, so to say, like, you know, bigger clients.
Yeah.
And then we kind of fill in with stuff that we want to do or stuff that, you know, we're interested in, like, you know, local bands that are more obtainable. So it's kind of a mix of everything. Recently we worked with a guy named Eddie Benjamin, who was here for months throughout this year. And mark my word, this kid's going to win a Grammy. Actually, he was just nominated for a Grammy for co-producing, co-writing Justin Bieber's album that came out this summer. And Eddie in his own right is incredible and has an album coming out. And his next probably 5 or 6 singles were done here. Look out for Eddie Benjamin. This guy is a force that will be taking the music business.
Singer-songwriter?
He's in everything. He literally comes in here with a song idea, plugs a guitar in, loops it, writes it on the spot, jumps in here, does the vocal, figures the vocal out, punches it, gets it right, does the drums, then he does a bass part, then he does a keys part, and then he comes back and he starts changing things, starts adding things. He will record and finish a song in less than a day, and it's the most brilliant song you've ever heard. It's like, wow. It's like Michael Jackson and Freddie Mercury, and it's just everything. And he can sing like a bird. He sings all his harmonies. So I'm really excited for people to discover Eddie Benjamin.
I have to listen now.
He's your age.
I'm
He's a
looking forward to
young
listening,
guy.
yeah.
He's from Australia, and he's just something else. I'm really excited
Sounds
about
like it.
him. Yeah.
We'll just spread the word.
Yeah.
So when you come across people like that you claim are like really keep your eye out type people, what are some of like the differentiators that you notice between those types and people that maybe just are aiming for their goals, but they don't quite have that it factor?
I think the it factor is kind of like anything else. It's that person that never stops. It's their life. You know, it's someone that you can't interrupt. Like you can't defocus that person. You can't shake them out of it. They're in it. And I call people like that lifers, like people that are in this business that kind of float. Like I would say people that float it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a really tough business to be in and to stay in and to pay your bills. And, you know, I've had my own struggles. The studio's had a lot of struggles with keeping up as have many studios, because the business has changed so much. But the people that are lifers or always find a way to make it work, and they keep going. They don't stop. They just keep going, and they're going to keep going. I mean, look at Mick Jagger, look at Bob Dylan, look at Paul McCartney. They're going to go till they drop dead on stage because it keeps them alive. It's literally keeping those guys alive. If they had to stop tomorrow, it would be rough.
Something we've talked about in the past is a lot of these legends that you mentioned, they're like, despite all like the rock and roll crazy lifestyle, they're all in such great shape with a constant movement, right? Especially the drummers we talk about. Like these guys moving. These guys are constantly heart rate's up all the time.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm sure you see that same kind of upbeat energy when you have these guys in here.
And the touring lifestyle, you know, I'm on the studio side, but a lot of the people that record here are touring musicians also. It can be really unforgiving and really unhealthy. You know, you don't have set meals, and you don't know where you're going to be. Sometimes you got to eat what's there, you know, and it's on you to make the time to take care of yourself. You know, I think that's, you know, a lot of people don't like to tour anymore just because it's so stressful, especially people with families and people that still do tour with families at home. Those families, you know, it's tough. I got a lot of friends that have kids that are still out there, and that's the one thing they say, it's tough. But you know, it's just like anything else. You know, you got to make the time. You know, you take somebody that's super focused on their new startup business, you know, their AI business or whatever they're trying to, you know, develop some sort of app or a plugin or a way to do something. They don't stop. You know, when I go home, I do my family time. If I can turn myself off, sometimes I'm guilty of like, hey, Dad, you know, like you're here, like be a dad. And I'm like, no, I got to do this. I got to sit down and do this. But it just never stops. I mean, I'm up late at night when I can't sleep reading about stuff that music or listening to music. I'm completely obsessed. So I think what really makes somebody that type of person is someone that is completely obsessed and engulfed in what they're doing and what they love. And they almost, you know, like I had to make myself have hobbies, which I don't really have a ton now. I used to have more, but a kid kind of takes your hobbies over when you have one. But I had to make myself, like, I remember when I moved here, you know, I grew up a Braves fan. I'm from North Carolina, so the Braves cover like 8 states, right?
Yeah.
It's bull. So I never loved the Braves, even though I lived through the Chipper Jones era. And when I moved here, one of my good friends that is a great drummer, played with Ryan Adams, and just fantastic drummer. And he's from Denmark. And he's like, you got to go see a Dodger game. I'm like, aren't you like soccer? Like, why are you into baseball? Like, what? This is so bizarre. And we went to a game, and I think it was Clayton Kershaw pitching, and I fell in love, and I've been completely obsessed with that ever since. So it's good to have a hobby if you're in this business.
Well, so you mentioned obsession. So that obsession that you had now, when you were that teenage kid that fell in love with the Beatles, was it the same kind of obsession, or did it expand as you were around more greatness?
It's the same feeling. I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 6.
Okay.
So I had to find something to keep me busy. And it's still that way. It's still like a dopamine drug to me. So, you know, it checks off so many boxes for me. And I can tell you when I'm not working is when I'm the worst. Mentally, if I'm not working, or if I'm on vacation, or if I'm away, I have to get back, you know. And it's, you know, some people it's driven by money and monetary value, and but at the end of the day, I think it's all kind of driven by dopamine. People that are really into what they do, it gives them a joy and a feeling of accomplishment and happiness that you can't describe any other way. Even the most arduous tasks of this job, like I wired this whole studio, I probably enjoyed almost every minute of it. As archaic as it is, it was, I would sit down and like just go for it for 8 hours.
Especially when there's no like time restraint. You can just casually do it exactly how you want it.
To doing that.
And going
by
back,
yourself.
Super zen.
Going back to that obsession,
dude.
like I kind of think it's a good thing. Like Tom Brady talks about, like
I'm sorry, I'm so.
No, you're good. I got plenty of space. Tom Brady talks about if you're going to be the best at anything, you got to be unbalanced. Like if you balance everything in life, you're just going to be like right in that middle of the pack.
Well,
But if you want to master being a sound engineer, you have to
put
love
the
it. 10,000 plus
and
hours.
10,000 hours. Yep.
There is like a joy to like having your space here and like connecting your cables and building your sounds and everything because it's yours. It's like your baby.
It is. And I feel like it's probably taken years off my life, to be honest.
Or you argue added them
And probably
on.
given me years too. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
would argue the opposite.
Well, the fire probably took years off, but I rewired this place twice because of that. But
let's dive into that for a second.
Yeah.
So when did that happen when this building burned down?
So it was right before Thanksgiving in 2021, and
Almost exactly 4 years ago.
like it was the 21st. Yeah, so like a week, 5 years ago, I think, or 4. Yeah, I guess so. It was a Sunday night. There was no session here, and I got a call 1:30 in the morning. My neighbor had been called because the fire department had to get in to the premises, and he had to drive up and unlock it, and he didn't know what was going on. He just knew there was a fire. And so he called me at 1:30, said, "Your place is on fire." So what do you mean? It's like, "It's on fire, dude." I had no idea what that meant, if it was a small fire, if it was a big fire. I was, half asleep and just in complete disbelief. So I drove down here. Fire department had Hollywood Boulevard blocked. I'm like, oh my God, like seriously? And so I walk up and there's, 20, 30 firefighters walking in and out, and I walk and I can smell it. And I can see the smoke. I can start to see stuff they'd pulled out, having no idea what it was because it got so mangled. And I walk in, and the lounge is just completely gone. It's just like a bomb went off. And then I walk into the control room, and it looks somewhat more intact. I can still see that there's, the equipment's there, but I can see how badly the damage is in the smoke. And, this room didn't get burned, but the heat and the smoke damage was so bad. It's like it was in an oven. So we had to completely redo everything. It was bizarre. And then, I went through that alone. A fire loss is like something that a lot of people deal with in Southern California, unfortunately. And then we had our fires this year that were just so bad. And a lot of people lost their homes, their studios, their instruments. So I actually I've been helping people kind of navigate their loss and, what to do with claims and how to clean microphones, all that kind of stuff. So, and the kind of the I guess the silver lining was, the studio was great before the fire. But there were little things that like I wanted to change that I never could change just because didn't have the time, didn't have the money. And so those little things, it's basically the same room, but updated. I got better doors. My electric is better. The ceiling was never soundproofed. So we used to get a lot of noise from Hollywood Boulevard and helicopters, and now that's soundproofed. It's much quieter. So just little things, like that really improved, and those little things go a long way. People that have been here before the fire and after the fire, just like, this is the best. I can't believe how great this is.
Well,
now,
you did such a great job. You wouldn't even know there was a fire.
Yeah.
There.
No.
I mean, it's beautiful.
What was the cause of the fire?
It was a lithium ion battery explosion next to my trash can. So it exploded, started a small fire, and then the trash can went up, and then everything else just kind of caught up.
Well, the battery was for what?
It was a backup for a security system, which I have another one now. But I have like 4 fire alarms that are wired to 4 phones. So if anything goes off,
crazy.
we all get buzzed, but yeah, I mean, that's why they tell you on airlines, do you have any batteries in
Yeah.
your checked
Now I
luggage?
know why.
Because if you have a cargo fire, those things explode all the time. Unfortunately, it's, I was a victim of it, but it's rare, but it can happen. You just got to be careful. You've seen Teslas go up, right?
Yeah,
Like
I've
it's
Wait,
seen
so
that.
from the time you get the call at 1:30 to driving over here, the Hollywood Boulevard closed, you leave here. I mean, I'm sure totally like, what's next? Like, what do I do next? What does that look like for you to rebuild this place?
it was leaving. I was still in disbelief. It was just like, this doesn't make sense. I lived up the street then, so luckily I was able to get here pretty quick. But I had no idea it was I was like, at first I was like, I'm going to have to give up, right? Because this is just too much. I think that the fact that this room still had instruments and still had some sort of a shell of a life gave me hope. I think if the whole place had burned down, it never would have happened. But the fact that there was enough left gave me a lot of hope. And so I started my insurance claim. Luckily, I had insurance, and my landlord, unfortunately, the way my lease was written, they require me to have liability insurance, which I had, but it's up to them to take out a claim for any sort of fire loss, water, that kind of thing, and they just kind of didn't do it. So I waited almost 2 years to even start rebuilding. This place sat here, which was really tough for me, the family. And eventually I basically said, I'm going to sue you because it's a breach of my lease. And this is an easy open shut case. My attorney said, this will be easy. Next day, she called and took out an insurance claim.
There you go.
So we didn't have to go through that. And they got started on the rebuild. The rebuild actually took only about 6 months to redo this room. We worked with an incredible company called Nyback. And, they have built studios all over the country, in LA, in Nashville. They're amazing. And you have to get in line. Because they are busy, and I'm sure they're going to probably help with a lot of the rebuilds in Altadena and the Palisades. They're
What is something that
awesome.
makes their work so unique?
Well, so they had only ever really done more modern studios, like a lot of neon lights and kind of like there's this kind of a look now to LA studios. It's more kind of in kind of the rap club world. Mm-hmm. So they've done a lot of studios that are kind of sleek like that. Mm-hmm. And this was like the complete opposite of what they do. It's like make a 1960s studio a 1960s studio again. And I, since I'd been here for, at that point, probably 13 years, this place is ingrained in me. Like I know what stuff is made out of. I know what's inside of it. I've fixed it, or I know the inside and outs of it. So we took the stuff that was up and were able to kind of measure things. Yeah. And I knew like what was under the tiles. Was it drywall? How many layers? I knew all of that because I had gone through it. And so we worked together off of my memory and kind of what we had and made it better than ever. And, we came up with our own ideas too for things. Like we improvised a lot, which, they were great the other cool thing is this company, they're all musicians, or at least the guy that runs it used to play bass with Colby Calais, and he was a touring bass player. And most of the guys on the crew are musicians. So everybody gets it. Mm-hmm. It's really cool. It's a really unique company. Sometimes they'll do restaurants and, that kind of thing, like bigger jobs. But they're fantastic.
Well, being 4 years removed from that, since this place was ablaze, what was the greatest lesson you learned about yourself?
I would say the same drive that got me into this is what kept me going. I wouldn't give up.
You're a lifer.
Life.
Well, I wouldn't give up on the studio, but yeah, that too. I'm sure I contemplated, why am I here? I have a 6-year-old now, and that was a big part of it. But yeah, for a while I'm like, my purpose is gone. I had a mix room, very small, in the meantime, that I did work out of. I worked at other studios, but it's kind of like I was basically freelancing at that point, because most of my clients are going to other bigger studios, and when something like that happens, people assume that you don't want to work, or maybe you don't want to deal with having to go to another studio, because I never worked in that many studios in LA before I had this place, but I did end up going and working at places like Sunset Sound, and but that was really tough. It was a struggle. Luckily, my insurance, I know you guys kind of focus on entrepreneurs right on this podcast.
Absolutely.
Make sure with any type of insurance you have for your business, you have loss of income. So they back calculate your income from your taxes, and they're able to help you pay bills until you have to reopen. That doesn't always work for everybody. And the tough thing for us is that we've just been through COVID. So our books were horrible.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I got a couple PPE loans I can show you, but I haven't really made any revenue. So, but I'm still recovering. Like, the fact that the studio was closed that long really affected our business. We had, I like being transparent with people. If you follow my social media, if I'm having a hard time, you're going to know about it, because it's not that I want pity. It's that I believe in this community, and I believe that when people pull together and support each other, that it's better.
Yeah.
And I think COVID isolated a lot of people, and everybody and their mom has a home studio now, right? Yeah. And that's great. I hope everybody has a home studio. I don't need all these people to come here to make me whole. I think the whole process is what makes me whole. So, the home studio is good for certain things, recording extra parts, recording your vocals where you're really comfortable, doing your editing and doing those kinds of things, mixing. But sometimes you need to go get in a room and play music with other humans and feel that.
Doubt.
And that's, to me, like the very few times I've been on this side of the glass. I'm usually on that side of the glass, but the very few times I've gotten to sit in and play on a session, that's almost a bigger rush sometimes, because first I was a musician, right? And so that's something that now, since I've reopened, I've made it a target for me to make sure that I play more in this room with people.
Clay, we are blessed and honored that you welcomed us into your studio.
Yeah.
Oh man,
We're going to be recording a song with you here, so
We're
really
excited.
honored.
We're
me
very
too,
excited.
guys.
Well, another thing too that's so special about this place here is that not only are you creating a room for people to come and record music and play together, but you're honoring such a rich history and a legacy that has been, oh man, how many years now?
58.
Yeah,
Almost 60 years.
Did you do that in your head?
Yeah.
almost 6
These
decades.
Midwest guys really can do math.
Almost 6 decades of magic making, and it's hard to believe. And the place caught on fire against all odds. It's almost like this room was left, like you said, as like a symbolic message that like this is where the magic happens.
This is the magic.
Not
know?
the lounge right here.
right. Like this is the space where like Pink Floyd made The Wall, arguably one of the best rock albums of all time. Steely Dan, Carly Simon, the list goes on. Ringo Starr, a Beatle, right?
Yeah.
Really legendary people in music that have had great influence over pop culture and just life in general. In this room where we're sitting right now, preserved because of you.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And we're sitting where right in front of where Dave Gilmour recorded the solo for Comfortably Numb. I mean, how cool is that, right?
Very cool.
You know,
That is very cool.
and it's bizarre. It's sometimes I have to like slap myself, like, because my wife will be like, my husband owns a studio. I'm just like, they probably think it's like a little dinky studio.
There's some
Say
history
Pink
here.
Floyd at least.
Yeah, right. Name drop a little bit.
But that's one thing that's kind of changed in the business is, especially with younger generations now, with TikTok, all of a sudden, Radiohead's like kids are obsessed with Radiohead now, which is my era. Like I grew up on Radiohead. That was my band that I loved. And the fact that 17-year-olds and 18-year-olds are getting obsessed with Radiohead is amazing to me. So
Well, it's funny you say that. On the way to the airport, the first song Merrick played in the car was Radiohead.
I was thinking that earlier. I was like, Merrick, listening to Radiohead? Okay.
But I know I speak for myself and Ethan and Evan. We had the TikTok era kids now with Radiohead.
Yeah.
That was us the last 2 years with Eagles.
and Kate Bush, right?
Yeah, Kate Bush was big too.
Yeah.
No, there's a lot of music that's resurging because of social media.
And that's really cool because I think a lot of it gets lost. The same reason when I was a kid that I didn't want to listen to all my parents' records. There were a couple bands that were an exception, like the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and all the classics. Sometimes you don't think your parents' music is cool until it shows up on TikTok, right?
Yeah. With
Especially these kids.
With your love for the Beatles, growing up, what were you hearing in your household?
A lot of that. My mom loved Motown, so a lot of Motown, a lot of oldies. My dad, huge Led Zeppelin fan. So anytime we were in Dad's car, he had every Led Zeppelin cassette. So, and he would sing like Robert Plant.
Yeah.
And I would say, turn it up. I was obsessed. I could not get over how much fun that sounded like those guys were having. Like, I'm like, this is, and I envisioned myself and would dream about myself being in these bands and playing with them. Like, it's so much fun. So it was just kind of like if I didn't have the studio, I don't know I'm pretty good at driving, but that's about it.
But shortly after these dreams that you had became true pretty soon. You're 17 years old touring in London.
Yeah.
And what was that experience like for you as a 17-year-old kid from North Carolina?
Bizarre.
Yeah. How did that happen?
It was so hilarious and it's not that crazy of a story. Our drummer's dad managed us, which was cool. He didn't take money or anything. He just wanted to be involved.
Yeah.
And
Shit, let's go to London.
Yeah. And he was this big buff guy. You don't want to mess with
Security too.
Oh man, he was like, he was like John Elway. Like he was just, and so they, he said, you know what? We played out all over. We played in front of a couple thousand people. We did street festivals in North Carolina. Cool. We were doing, road gigs in South Carolina. I remember one time I had a gig on a Friday night and I was still in high school and my English teacher was there. And I was like 2 weeks late on a paper. And after the show, he was like, don't worry about that paper.
That's cool. That's cool.
Because they got it. They saw where I was. And,
So cool.
And it was cool to be like, hey, girls, I'm going to be in England for 2 weeks playing with my band to see when I get back.
Yeah, right?
That's so
Not
fun.
a bad line.
And it was surreal to stand on that stage. We played 3 nights and, didn't really get paid much for it, but it was packed. And to be in the same room, they moved the cavern years later, but the same bricks, it's across the street. And just feel like, wow, like this is why I got into this and this is where they were. And so the drummer's dad just like emailed them and said, here's their music. I think he mailed them a CD,
Classic.
and they're like, do you want to come over right before Thanksgiving this fall? Sure. 3 nights. We'll bill you. We'll triple bill you. So it was incredible. And staying in the hotel where, there's so many stories and then walking around Liverpool feeling like, really proud and really grown up because we could drink there. So, we were, you couldn't stop a bunch of kids from going to pubs and bragging about playing the Cavern Club to these old English,
No.
scousers.
You know what's funny?
memories.
You were there at 17 years old. Then a couple months later, like most kids have been dreaming about going to college their entire lives. You're probably like, fuck, I got to go to college now. After being in England, you probably just want to go rock and roll.
I did. I mean, that's essentially what happened. I blasted a semester. I realized it was a waste of money.
Yeah.
And that I wanted to go home and work in a studio in Asheville. And then I went on the road with my band, the Treasury. We were like, we wrote our own songs and did that for a couple of years.
Nice.
And still recording the band, mixing, doing all that, recording other bands, going on the road with bands that I still love, that I, that was an experience of a lifetime. And that's where we got our asses whooped by Amish guys in Indiana playing basketball. Which that I'll never forget, because what we would do like a loop. We would go Midwest and go down south, kind of Texas, and then a couple times we had to loop back up to New York, and we're like, why don't we go through the Midwest again? And we would just keep playing in Terre Haute because it was nothing but college kids.
Yeah.
And we would pack the bar. There'd be a line out the door.
Indiana State.
They would, and she was like, you want to play tomorrow night? We're like, yeah, I guess we don't have to be in Chicago for 2 days. We'll play it on tomorrow night. And
So cool.
it was so much fun. I'm glad I had that experience, but not sustainable. I would not, if somebody said, do you want to go do a road gig right now? I don't know. It'd have to be a lot of money.
Yeah.
For 6 weeks.
Yeah. 10 grand a week. Sure.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
That's awesome, though.
A lot of fun.
Some great stories. And then transitioning from being a live performing musician into more of a studio producer, engineer. Where do you think that you found most of your inspiration and also like skill set, like learning actually how to work the board, how to learn a DAW, like Pro Tools? Like, were you recording music before DAWs were a thing and then you had to adapt with the technology?
Yes. Yeah. Well, so I was always performing out, luckily. Ever since I was 15. So, I was always recording and playing out at the same time. It was always like a both necessary at all times, because I was writing too. And I wanted to listen to what I had come up with and, think about adding parts to it, or thinking, kind of teaching myself production really. So, when I kind of stopped touring and doing the band thing, it was kind of a very definitive stop, because the band kind of broke up and it ended pretty nasty. And, we were all like 21, 20, and we were just learning how to deal with people really. And so I kind of got turned off to being in a band. I was like, I don't need this. Like, I recorded and played most of the parts on the albums anyway. And so I kind of went towards the studios, in Asheville, and with kind of myself in mind, like, I'm going to make an album of songs that makes me happy and do what I want. And then through that, I kind of started to just record, regular clients at, studios in Asheville. And I worked with a couple cool engineers that I learned a lot from. My buddy David McConnell, who he did like Elliott Smith's last record. And he's still in North Carolina. He's great. He taught me so much. He was actually part of the influence for me to move here too, because he was out here for a long time. And so, I just kind of naturally progressed into that direction and never looked back.
What was the technology and equipment like when you first started to how it progressed to where you are now? And how you combine the two now, because I'm sure you still use some of the old stuff with the new now.
Yeah. I mean, I started with tape, like a 4-track, and DAWs had just, DAWs had been started well before I got into it, but they were really primitive and really expensive. And so the easiest way still to record at that point was still analog, and the cheapest way. And then I remember I got like a digital, they were popular like Porta Studios, and it would have a hard drive inside of it. and you could kind of do everything within that. Didn't have to touch a computer. Sounded like shit, but I didn't know any better. I didn't know what was good and what wasn't, what was quality. And then I moved on. Probably by the time I was 16 or 17, I got into my first DAW, which was Cubase. At that time, Pro Tools was very expensive, and you had to have, a certain kind of hardware in front of it to make it work. And it's not like it is now where it's accessible to everybody. And then I jumped into a second DAW, Digital Performer, when I was a little older. And then I got into Pro Tools probably when I was about 18, when it was still very expensive, but it became more obtainable. So I just started buying up, licenses for older versions until I could kind of get to where I wanted, and all self-taught. But as far as analog goes, we still have tape. I love that medium. In fact, it's probably my favorite way to record if I had a say. It's not for everything, but for live tracking with a project that wants to feel like it's alive in that way, it's fantastic. So, and it also has a lot of limitations, which I think, we kind of live in the world where the world's at your fingertips. And I think with DAWs and in music, that's also kind of the idea these days. And with tape, you have limitations. And I think it, it makes people make decisions, which I think is a huge part of creating something that is more refined and unique. When you have to make decisions, it kind of puts you on the spot, and I love working that way.
Is there a specific genre you like to work on the most? EDM, pop, rock, punk? What do you like the most?
I think I really like working. I love working with rock, like indie rock and alternative, anything like that, and Americana, stuff with real instruments. I don't do a whole lot of
Dance music?
No. That's kind of...
You don't really need a studio for that kind of stuff.
Not anymore. No, you don't. You don't. But
I feel like the room is for a band, for a group of people who want to play the guitar, the bass, and the drums, and the organ at the same time if they want,
Yep.
And it creates that you're recording not only each instrument, you're recording the room.
Yeah.
And you could hear that, especially when you use tape and analog equipment, you could feel that. And personally, when I listen to a recording that I know is a digital recording and then an analog recording that maybe an older, like a Beatles song, I can hear the difference. How would you describe the difference between analog and digital for music?
Well, there's two different ways to describe it. One is the sound and one is the workflow. So I think the sound of analog, digital for the longest time could never catch up to analog as far as quality goes. The conversion was never as good as coming off something magnetic and keeping it out of computers. Now digital conversion is really pretty much as, really great. Now we're about to have 32-bit in the studio, which it's already on the film side, which you can't distort 32-bit. So that it's only going to get better. But a lot of people now are trying. Every time you record something digital, you're trying to make it sound like analog because we miss that. So that's a huge part of my workflow when I mix. But as far as the sound, I think you can really mess stuff up in the box now to kind of get there sound wise. But as far as the workflow, it's just so different. Like I think working on tape, like I turn the computer off and it's just like, it's all here. It's with your hands and your ears.
Yeah.
And what you're saying too about the room before, the room is an instrument. So this room is part of the band or part of the recording, if it's a string section, if it's a horn section, if it's one person playing a guitar or a piano and a vocal, it's
You feel that.
it's all, it's part of the experience. You can't do that everywhere,
No, it's hard to fake it. And when you are recording analog, do you find yourself keeping it in analog or do you bring it and mix it and master it digitally? I know it has to get to a WAV file eventually in this era we live in. So do you find yourself mixing and mastering digitally?
Usually, yeah. But sometimes not. I've done records where we kept it all on tape. We mixed down to 2-track tape and took it to mastering on 2-track tape. And then they would convert it, to digital eventually. But yeah, I mean, I've done a couple of those records. That's the more archaic way of doing it. It's more fun. It's a lot more work. It takes a lot more time. Still sounds really great though.
Yeah.
But I usually, for the sake of sanity, we will. I'll try to do as much on tape as I can, overdubs, and then we'll dump down and start working in the box to kind of finish things.
And then when it comes to mixing and mastering, we've talked about this, me and my brothers, the difference between the two. How would you describe black and white, the difference between mixing and mastering to someone who really
Has no idea.
Yeah, it doesn't know. They've heard the terms before in music. Oh, it needs to be mixed. We need to master it. People don't know always what they mean. How would you describe that?
Well, there's a couple ways. The first silly way is mixing is shampoo and mastering is conditioner.
I love that.
That's good.
That's
a good
great,
clip.
dude. Yeah.
So, the mastering is basically, and I rely on my mastering engineers. I also master myself, but I usually don't master anything I mix. So,
Why is that?
because I want another set of ears on it. I want somebody to hear something I missed, because that's just part of also the process that is collaborative. I think mixing is kind of like getting what you want out of it and what the artist wants out of it in every way possible. Making things sound a certain way, getting a feeling, or finding the feeling that you lost after doing a bunch of overdubs. And stripping things back, editing, making things work together. It's kind of like it's kind of like a dance. Like like you kind of want to, when you mix, you kind of want everything to dance together and kind of feel great. And we get pretty close to what we see as something that sounds loud and great, but then you send it to a mastering engineer, it comes back and it's just like, I didn't think about these things, and oh my God, like, what they did on this, whatever they did to it, it's bringing out a part that I didn't pay enough attention to, or there's always something better about it that, it's brighter, it's competitive.
Yeah.
Being competitive is kind of one of the more important things in mastering. And, especially with loudness, most mastering engineers, that's all they do. They have ways to get things loud that, so they won't distort, that they're competitive with, what's on the radio, or, so that when you put something out and it plays after, like a hit song, it doesn't feel deflated. And that's something that not most people that master on their own or in a DAW that don't do it like full time, it's hard to get that loudness without distortion. So mastering engineers also prepare your files for delivery. For uploading, you never have to worry about, what you're uploading to file services. The other thing I rely heavily on mastering for a lot is vinyl. So cutting vinyl on a lathe, you can't do that at home. Lathes are a couple $100,000, and you got engineers that commit their lives to cutting records and they manually cut them. They use a machine, but it's based on the discretion of the engineer, how wide they cut the gaps, and then they take care of your they send your pressing off, and they do all that work. So
It's another ball game than mixing.
it's a completely different ball game, and it's such a cool ball game too. My manager actually manages one of the best mastering studios in LA, and couple of my good friends are engineers there, and you know, it's a really exciting world in mastering too. You certainly do a lot more volume than someone like me. So, you know, when it comes to accolades like Grammys and that kind of thing, I'm just like how many more pages of nominations are you going to post on your Instagram story? Because, you know, these guys and gals are mastering, you know, 10, you know, 3,000 songs a year, right?
Wow.
So, and big clients too. Yeah. And, you know, a lot of mixers rely on their specific mastering engineer for part of their sound. Like I have a couple different ones that I use for different jobs. I have a person I use that I like that's really good for kind of more organic stuff that I know is going to come back and be what I want. I know someone that kind of does it old school and doesn't really mess with my mix at all and just makes it really loud and really competitive. And I know someone else that does that I go to for stuff that really needs a lift, that the client really wants a night and day kind of experience. So
when you say competitiveness, does that kind of mean a boldness?
Loud.
Yeah, like volume.
Okay.
So
loudness.
In music, this is all relatively new to me. I've been doing a lot of recording at home and my own mixing and mastering. So what I've learned.
God bless you.
Yeah. What I've learned. So after I record everything and then I do my mixing, what I would describe as mixing, which I've told Evan before, mixing is your cutting, you're pulling away of layers, you're adding on of things, you're leveling, your stereo left and right, your automation, right? If you want something to get louder at a certain moment and then drop down,
right?
Your I'll do fade ins and fade outs and a lot of manipulation of the sound, like effects, reverbs, delays, all that kind of stuff. I would consider mixing, right?
Yeah.
And then mastering is taking all of the edits, like you said, shampooing. After you wash the hair, after you get the dirt and clean it, after you mix it, mastering is like taking it, polishing it up a little bit, making it loud enough that's competitive with what's out there. Because in music, especially popular music, I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, that the industry standard is 14 LUFS for streaming services. It might differ per platforms.
Don't get into LUFS with me, dude. I'm not a mastering engineer.
Okay, so
if you go to a mastering engineer and say, I want this to be 14 LUFS, they'll laugh at you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Why? What do they want it at?
So what happens with streaming services?
Well, that's the integrated. So that's like the average.
What happens with when you submit to Spotify, et cetera, they turn your stuff down. So, you know, most of the really loud pop stuff is hitting at 5-6 LUFS, like really, really loud, completely slammed, no dynamic range.
That's at the peak, right?
Well, that's integrated too. It's just loud. It slams. So all streaming services, what they tell you is they want you to submit it at -14 because that's what.
-14.
But what they do is they take everything and just cram it down there. So you always want to
up it,
do it as loud as you can without distortion.
It. Okay, that's good to know.
Because even if you submit it at -14, they're gonna mess with it.
Okay,
so that's
if it's not distorting, you can't really be in a negative situation if it's too loud because they're gonna lower it anyways.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of like, and also I just like gave you gasoline in a match.
Yeah,
so,
dude. Well, because on DistroKid, they say -14 LUFS is like the industry standard, and you opt into loudness normalization, you can, and
don't do that.
No, I won't. And if your track isn't loud enough, they'll make it loud enough, or if it's too loud, they'll quiet it. So that's very interesting to know, and that's what I've been reading about the competitiveness of these tracks, especially like your pop music. Everyone wants to be louder than everyone else because when they come up next on the radio, it pops out, it cuts through on the mix.
It's always been that way.
Yeah.
But we're kind of at the point now to where it's as loud as it's going to get.
How loud can you get?
It's not going to get any louder. So that's why we have a volume knob.
Good point. So I would say mixing is like the nitty gritty, getting your hands dirty. on the track.
Yeah.
And mastering is like you're polishing up, getting the volume right, maybe EQ, like getting the high end, like the vocals a little brighter, the
Yep.
low end a little deeper, right?
Yep.
Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, and like mastering, like a lot of mastering engineers, like classic ones would say that they do corrective EQ. So
What's that?
corrective EQ is kind of like a curve. So, everybody kind of in the old days it was a smiley face. So you pull mids and boost the bottom and the top. But a lot of mastering engineers have their curves, right? So it's kind of their sound. So they have places where they like to lift things out and pull things out that are, not doing us any favors, kind of getting rid of mud, making things punch more. Being able to get a brightness out of your vocal that you couldn't get in your mix, but at the same time, not ruining the brightness of your drum sound.
Yeah.
There's a lot of finesse in there. I've always wanted to do this. We'll see what happens. It's part of my podcast ideas. I wanted to take 5 of my favorite mastering engineers, and we all, everybody masters one song.
I like that.
And then we do a blind test, and see if anybody can figure out who mastered it. And
That's cool.
And then, give the files, put the files out there for people to compare, and, we'll name them who did it. And so
Yeah.
they can understand
The difference.
the difference in each one, because it's truly their stamp. It's their ears.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Have you ever experimented at all with some of these AI mastering plugins?
Like Lander.
Lander or Isotope, Ozone.
Yeah.
Thoughts on those?
It's great for like, I don't think Lander sounds very good, but I think stuff like Isotope is great. Ozone is great to, like if I have a client that's like, hey, you know what? Like the mixes sound great. I'm going to play this for some label people or blah, blah, blah. Can you just make everything loud? I'll run it through Ozone, and just not pay much attention. But when it comes to, being sensitive to certain things, there's a lot that the AI misses. There's a lot of things that mastering engineers do that AI just can't. What AI can do is make it louder and put an EQ curve on it. But it can't, one thing that's really important that a lot of good mastering engineers, I would say, would do is when you master something really loud, you lose your dynamics. You lose your, your dynamic between your verse and your chorus. Everything sounds the same. So great mastering engineers will take the time to make those parts feel more unique, but still maintaining the same loudness.
Yeah.
And that takes time and experience to do. And AI just doesn't not understand that. Yeah.
Well, and like AI, when I've experimented with Ozone, and what it tells you to do is play the loudest part of your song.
Sure.
And it reads it and it scans it and it does natural EQ based on that part of the song.
Right.
But it doesn't listen through the whole song.
No.
Right. So, and it's a good starting point because I've heard when I've used it, I've heard like an increase of like clarity
Sure.
on some of my songs. But then I go in and I tweak what they've done. Like it's a
Right.
good starting point.
It is. But again, that EQ curve is not so much AI, it's an algorithm. So they kind of say, here's the target, and we're going to listen to this audio that's coming through the detector, and we're going to split the difference and add our ideal curve to this. It's not like a human, which would say, this whole album has this kind of feel and sound to it. And so I'm going to master an EQ in a certain way that that kind of brings that out even more. Whereas AI just takes it and says, here's a song, here's the next song. It doesn't kind of take into account the whole picture.
The feel.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
And that's a huge part of it too, is having mastering engineers that are able to keep the emotion. And that's a huge part of, like, especially when I'm mixing albums and, I start putting mixes out there and people are giving me mix notes. I'm like, okay, I'll do a couple of these, but wait until we have the album done, and then listen to it as a whole, and then think about your decisions, because they might change, because there's a cohesive part to it that mastering engineers take to the final level that we can't do really.
So Clay, what, like for someone who's, let's say, graduating college, they want to be a sound engineer, own a studio. What are like some lessons and tips you've learned along the way that you recommend to someone just starting out?
Hopefully you're a trust fund kid if that's the case, because it is a tough business. But no, when I was getting into it, the business was starting to change a lot. And, I'll be completely honest. If you're going to school for audio engineering, have a backup plan. Not because I'm not saying you're not going to be the most successful audio mixer that there ever was. What I'm saying is it's so competitive, and it takes decades to get your feet in the cement. And one thing that kind of reflects everything in society when it comes to what's changing with AI and that kind of thing is you constantly have to reinvent the way you do things. You constantly have to change the way you do things, the ways that you make money, or you got to do it all. You got to be able to do it all. You can't, I do graphic design, I do video production, I do my business side of things, I do my copy on my website, I do all that stuff, social media. I make it all. I don't pay anybody to do it because I want to save that money. But I think owning a studio in this climate is extremely tough. I'm lucky that I'm in Los Angeles and that we have the draw here and we have the business. But I think that what I would say is really figure out where you want to work and what you want to do. What do you want to accomplish? Do you want to just record local bands for the rest of your life? And are you cool with that? Do you, if that pays your bills, are you okay with that? Are you happy with it? Or do you want to be the next best producer in the world? I would say find the people that are doing what you want to be doing and follow them, and try to work with them. Try to get, there's a bunch of really cool producers that are coming up, that are kind of my age and late 30s that are starting to kind of get their feel. And I think it's important, if you want to be in that world, in that realm, that you need to just set your focus there and go for it and find a way to, where'd this guy go to school or this gal go to school, and what studios do they work in? Maybe I'll go be an intern there, right?
Yeah.
All those kinds of things. I'm talking about Los Angeles and maybe Nashville kind of, I think seeking what you want out of it and not waiting for it to come to you. You cannot wait. It won't come to you ever. You got to go for it. So
what I'm getting from that, kind of like you said earlier, if you want to do it big, it has to be your life. You have to be a lifer when it comes to this industry, particularly. If you want to make music, if you want to produce music, if you want to engineer it at the highest level, you have to live it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. There's no other way. You can't phone it in. I don't know anybody that phones it in. I honestly don't. Maybe I know people where I grew up that still do music, but they have a lot of other things they also do, which is also a great way to be if you are a writer, because you enjoy that. But yeah, as far as this kind of work goes, it's all or nothing. It's just, and it's cutthroat. It's there's a lot of people ahead of you, and there always will be. And you just kind of got to do great work that you're confident in and that you believe in, and good things will continue to come your way.
Love that.
Yeah.
And what's your favorite thing about what you do?
Honestly, I love all of it, but I think it depends. Like if you asked me last summer, I'd probably say I'm really into mixing right now because I've been mixing a couple records that I am really into. But right now I'm really into capturing live recordings because, that's the other thing. Like I did a setup today for you guys that I've never done before because I'm because I'm confident in my room and my ability. And so I like trying different things. This is kind of an adaptation of the setup from yesterday that wasn't my setup, it was someone else's.
What is the setup today, if you don't mind sharing?
Well, we got, some of it is stuff that I do. I mean, there's just a couple of mics that are a little different, but
Some room mics all over the place.
yeah, the 44s is room mics, the old RCAs. That's really cool. It's kind of like a different sound. It's really, those are old ribbons, and they kind of give you this papery musical sound that's different than like a condenser mic. Usually we set the drums up in that part of the room for more live stuff, and then this part of the room behind us is kind of the classic setup in this room. That's where Jeff Porcaro did Mother, and a lot of the Steely Dan drums were done in the spot right behind me. And so we kind of alternate, and I put the bass amp in here and blocked it off, which is another cool thing about this room. You can have a lot going on, and the separation is still pretty great. Wow. And you go listen to a lot of classic records. I was watching the other day, Shelley Yakis was talking about making Damn the Torpedoes with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And they were isolating the drums, and you could hear the other guitars really faint, but they had good separation because that's part of the job is to, kind of make it work the best you can. At the end of the day, still be able to accomplish your mission of mixing and making it sound great, even with bleed. So that's kind of a fun part of it that I think, I get a lot of clients that want everything isolated, which I get because they want to go home and like
overdub and,
listen to a solo guitar for 3 years or whatever. But I think people that get it and are not afraid of that and that understand that a lot of those records done in here were done with the amps not isolated. They didn't have ISO then. They played mostly all in here together, or that booth wasn't built till 1975. So there was no booth in here for like the first almost decade of the studio existing, because that was in the day when everybody recorded in one room and it still sounded great. So I really like challenges. I like doing things that I've never done and making them work, and just kind of like proving my point that the room is kind of infallible. Like it's just
an instrument.
It is. Yeah.
Clay.
Go ahead. You want me to go?
Go ahead.
How important, like you mentioned the room, people don't realize all the time in a space like this, it's all soundproofed, right? Every wall, every ceiling. How important is that to capturing the sound and the quality of it? What difference does it make if it were soundproofed or was not?
Well, the sound, okay, let's say it's treated. Soundproof means keeping sound out, right?
Okay.
So yes, so my ceiling is soundproofed. All the doors are doubled with airlocks, which is part of soundproofing. Now in here you see a lot of shapes, and that's actually what we would call treatment. And so the treatment, basically, if you didn't have any treatment in here, let's say that all the walls were, drywall painted, and the ceiling was ceiling tiles, or any kind of typical ceiling you could think of, this room wouldn't sound very interesting. It would sound echoey and have a lot of like, kind of like dings, and you clap, you would hear it. It would sound like a ricochet, like bullet kind of sound, all of this is basically to break up the waves in a way that sound more natural. So anything you can do to break up the norm. So we have, the ceiling is the old Armstrong tile, which is was a standard in studios and still is. they put that in elementary schools too. It's very neutral.
Nice.
It kind of stops. It doesn't deaden. It doesn't brighten. It just kind of balances.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the wood in here kind of breaks up everything and gives it a purpose in a way. And then, you know, there's places in here where there's, you'll see like a material, and behind it is probably some sort of absorbent material. And, you know, those are kind of bass traps. They also help balance. So again, it's kind of a dance. It's kind of like everything has its purpose in a way. Like the top of the booth there, that's all ice. That's all absorption. So it's kind of a bass trap.
The way I look at it, it's like you've created a mix, or you're mixing the room.
Yes.
Right? In
Yes.
a sense, like you're trapping certain sounds that you know do different things with the abstract shapes that are cut to form and move the sound.
Well, don't give the credit to me. It's the guys in the 70s that came up with it. But it's, you know, they had an idea that worked for this room. Evidently, it worked well enough for those records to be done here. So we tried not to change much of it. And, you know, in the 60s, apparently this room had none of this treatment. And it was basically the Armstrong tile and the linoleum. And it still sounded great then. But I think it was much more 60s studio, which back in the 60s, that was, studios were more like that. It was more, way less treatment, you know, a really solid absorbent ceiling and big rooms. So, you know, it's definitely changed over the years. I know in the 70s that there was carpet in here too for a time. So it was much deader.
Yeah.
Clay, we thank you so much for taking the time to spend the day with us.
Absolutely.
We're going to record
No
a great song, and I think it's so fitting that the song we chose is called A Man on a Mission.
Oh.
And we're talking about being lifers, right? And going after it and chasing your dreams.
Yeah.
I think this song will speak for itself and will be a lot of fun to do. So thank you so much.
Thank you guys. This is
dude.
awesome. Great questions, great conversations.
Yeah, this has been fun.
Yeah, it's been fun.
We're gonna,
A lot of fun.
we
dude.
got many more hours together. So thank you so much
Just
for
if somebody
welcoming us.
offers you a Chicago dog in LA, don't eat it. Just
I like that
go for
advice.
the LA street dog. That's the way.
And for anyone listening right now
You wanna
who
book the
wants
studio?
to book the
Yep.
studio, find you, connect, where can they find you?
Find me on Instagram at Boulevard Recording. It's all spelled out. BOULEVARD Recording. And website boulevardrecording.com. All the emails come to me. All the DMs come to me and my manager. You know, I have also Clay Blair Mixes. That's my Instagram handle. If you want to just message me. If you got questions about anything, I'm an open book. If I take a while to respond, I will respond. I love to talk about anything related to this. So even if you don't want to book time, you just have a question, feel free.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Clay.
Thank you
Thank you for your
guys.
time. What a great day.
Yeah.
Awesome.